Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everyone to Tarot Journeys with Guy. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's well and holding steady out there in the world. Now, wow, some crazy stuff. This last week has been so much going on. Zelensky and Trudeau just had a thing here in Canada, sort of in line with there was a million people march for the children here in Canada in quite a few different cities throughout Canada. It was kind of a big thing. And it's funny how it coupled and coincided with the Zelensky meeting, right? And Zelensky doing his tour, trying to get money and trying to reformat what's going to happen with Ukraine in the aftermath. Zelensky comes here and this whole march kind of thing is going on. And then he names Marina Abramovich to be the ambassador and to help rebuild the schools in Ukraine. And that's insane. And we know what this woman is all about and who she's been connected with and what she's been up to. And it's just insane, like how out in the open this is. This has been part of their plan the whole time. Now, underneath of that, what's been reported, I mean, the Biden administration and the DOD in the States, the Pentagon went over Congress or whatever and got the money for Zelensky or attempted to get money. I'm not sure how that's working, but they're getting the money. And then in Canada, they're giving them a whole bunch of money. And it's what we're seeing is how these deep state bad actors, the cabal, are operating out in the open. Okay, that's a big thing. Like that, the Marina Abramovich is just crazy. Like, and it's part of their psyop. Zelensky was here and making all these deals for the restructuring of Ukraine and getting big tech and media and people all involved in investors, BlackRock. Simultaneously, reports came out this last week around how BlackRock and Vanguard are building a migrant city, a new, fresh migrant city in Texas. And that's part of the whole plan, part of the Great Reset, part of the controlled demolition. Now, the US is under invasion, and so is Europe. And it's quite obvious this migrant thing is part of their agenda. But it's like open. When you have tens of thousands of people crossing the border illegally, it's not good for all people involved. Okay, but it's becoming open. It's becoming more in people's faces and people are starting to get it, right? But like this is happening in Europe, in the United States, UK. I mean, these people from the border in the United States are coming up to Canada. So we're seeing it. We're seeing the results here. Canada is completely deep state controlled. Like it's unbelievable how much people have bought in, I guess. There's a lot of us awakened. And I mean, it's good to see like this march and things, but oh man, a lot of it rests upon this kind of global thing that's happening, the freedom movement in the pockets that it is happening in the world, and it doesn't necessarily rest upon nation states, even though this thing of the nation state versus globalism is real. Yeah, Marina Abramovich, I mean, people are tripping out in the internet with that, and I mean, it's very strange. She's totally involved with all of the trafficking and they had another thing too, and I guess with the Canada-India relations have been sort of a little bit frazzled as of late, and over Justin Trudeau accusing the Indian government of basically assassinating a separatist leader that lived in Canada. And it's like, wow, you can't really believe anything that the Trudeau government is saying. In fact, it's part of an op. I think it's there to sort of throw division within the world order and to create this multipolar world where it's the West versus the BRICS nations. yeah, it's kind of obvious to me and obvious to many other people, but it's part of this power play, the geopolitical thing that's taking place. And then you got this thing with Ukraine is just such a debacle and disaster, and you have all the different sides kind of moving away or shifting, right? And there's a big shift. There was the senator caught bribing as well, or he got caught in a bribe cycle. This is all part of like the power play and the psyop that they're pushing out. And it just shows you, it's just showing you that how much of it is out in the open and how much these guys are kind of like moving towards this end game. The other thing was the F-35. There was an F-35 fighter jet that went missing and had all these issues and was claimed being hacked. So this is another thing they're building up to the next psyop, the next false flag, where a lot of it rests upon like a cyber attack in some way. And so like this thing with the hacked F-35, which in a lot of ways it shouldn't be hacked. This is like supposedly one of the top pieces of technology operating right now in the military theater. Okay, and like there's no way that these things can go missing, or even they're that susceptible to being hacked, right? But it's part of this narrative that they're trying to sort of push, right? And like, and we see it, people are seeing it, and so but it's important to kind of, I guess, stay on top of it and kind of like point it out and like expose these guys. Yeah, it's just crazy. And it does, if you look at how things are sort of unfolding from kind of, I guess, a mainstream or sort of like more of a surface level view, it looks dire, right? And like there's a lot of dire, people reporting dire things, and I don't know. You got to realize people are being activated right now, and some of it is part of the theater, some of the projection, but like, leading up to 2024, we can see how, like, especially we've got this kind of longer period of time and we've seen what's been happening, how these bad acting, these deep state elements are going to try at all costs to prevent the next presidential election. Okay. And that's kind of a thing. And even Trump even saying like warning that this could be the last, or that is a problem. I can't remember exactly what he's saying. He's going full tilt, right? And his rhetoric and his dialogue is becoming more open about this stuff. And you're seeing these people, you're seeing these politicians and stuff becoming more open, right? Last time I did the video, it was Russell Brand. He was getting attacked. Now, simultaneously, Tim Ballard and Elon Musk also getting sort of attacked. And all three of these guys are questionable, I guess, where they're coming from. I don't know so much about Tim Ballard. Sound of Freedom, yes, and like what they're exposing, but like we just have to take things with a grain of salt. I think that's kind of more the point of it, because with those three characters, these are people before, well, Elon Musk and Russell Brand, years before, they were speaking a whole different tune. And in the last couple of years, it's been great, right? Like people do have a turn of conscience, right? We don't know what the back end deals. When you start speaking outside of the narrative, especially if you are connected or hooked up to these people, this infrastructure of deception and decrepitude and the deep state machinations, they come after you. That's what we're seeing, right? But these are people that potentially have turned, or once on one side have turned over. I'm not sure. I don't really know too much about Tim Ballard. I know that he was working, I guess, in the FBI and all of that, right? That's what happens in a state of war, though, right? And we are in a state of war. The war is against us, though. And that's what people all over the world need to wake up to. This is why we're here. This is why we keep pounding on things. This is why it's important for people to openly dialogue and to resist and to not comply and to keep exposing them and to kind of conduct ourselves in a peaceful and composed manner as much as possible. Right? I know it's difficult, but it's possible. So yeah, crazy. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I mean, we've got our kind of weekly thing. I want to look at, I know it's a little far for the election, but I want to see if there is going to be a 2024 election. And if so, is this the last election? And then the other thing I want to ask about is there going to be a civil war in the United States? Flat out. I didn't ask that ever. I kind of have been resisting it. I don't want to put that out there because that's not what I want to see. None of us do, right? But I think it would be a good question to ask because we'll get insight into what's actually taking place. And it's enough of a long, like a projection that things can shift, right? And that's kind of how I operate as far as with predictions and forecasting, is that it's there to present options. I mean, for people, like for seers and clairvoyants, they get a glimmer or an insight into the future, but the future is infinite. The future is unknown in some ways. And so when we start giving word to it, when we start pointing out, we can shift it. This is the big part of it. That's why we do the forecasting. That's why sometimes with people that are on point, sometimes it might turn out that what they were forecasting might not be accurate. Well, that's because some things have to shift, right? People can shift things, right? So in lieu of everything that we just talked about, the fifth generational attacks that the people are receiving, that the nation states are receiving, and the shift in the war rhetoric and moving it to like more of a China-based potentially situation, right? All of that, I mean, and then the whole identitarian politic and the division that's created with people and going after the children and the information war and the weather modification and all of that in lieu of that, right? That we have to keep all of that in mind. That's why we ask the question right now about is there going to be a presidential election? Because it's leading up to that, right? So, yeah, is there going to be a presidential election? Is it going to be the last one if there is, right? We'll see. We'll see what comes up, and then we'll go from there. All right, let's see. Two things I could tell you before I even laid out the cards. There is definitely a concentrated group. They've come together. They've got a plan. They don't want it. They want to actually stop. Their desire is to stop the election, totally disrupt it. If they can't cheat on it, if they can't win it, if they can't cheat on it, if they can't win on it, then they will disrupt it. But see, and the other thing I could tell you is that yes, there is going to be another one. There is also another group of, right, like the Patriot side this is what they're pushing for right now. This is why so much stuff is coming out. Like, I mean, these guys are getting caught. They really are getting caught. That's why, you know, it's just things kind of are flipping and flopping back and forth, right? Like, you know, you think one thing is going to happen and then it happens another way. So, I mean, this is not according to people's desires, right? Like, this is kind of what the 10 of Cups talks about. But, you know, when you're asking a kind of an absolute definitive question like that of, is there going to be another, like is this the last election? Is this, and the 10 comes up and it's the cycles. Okay, 10 represents the ending of a cycle. When it's reversed, it represents a non-ending. So no, they aren't going to disrupt the election. There is going to be a presidential election. It's going to happen. You know, like the Hillary Clinton side of things, the DNC, that all of these bought and sold Unitarian rhino types that, you know, like we see, which kind of represented right now with the Queen of Wands, right? Of course they don't want that. They want to be in power. And so that's the thing about what's going on, is people need to be deadly aware of like who these people are. And like, I mean, this isn't just in the States either, but I guess we're focused on the States. Looking at the insane policies that are formulated by these people, and sort of recognizing like how that's part of that agenda, right? So that's a thing, right? And like part of that agenda is to disrupt the election. I mean, that's their aim. That's their wish. If they get rid of the United States, then the global governance system, this global totalitarian dictatorship, is realizable. Like, they will create it. Okay, so yeah, and it's just like they really want people to get burnt out. They want they want their batteries to be burnt out, right? And so by the time we hit the election, we aren't on point. Like, because like what we need is to rally the people. Like I know I'm not in the United States right now, but like it's the same thing here in Canada. Like, we see this happening. We saw it happening with all the different rallies and stuff like this. It's sort of getting the people all together and paying attention to what is actually happening. And like, this is the thing, is it's the citizen, the everyday person that's noticing things, that is bringing it to the attention of these politicians and these actors, bad actors and good actors in this whole thing. I kind of have a feeling that Trump is going to name a woman for VP. That's I think, thing. I know that he just recently came out and said that's not going to be a deciding factor. It's going to be the credentials. But I mean, some of these women that are proving that they have the credentials, right? So that's something we might see. And the other thing is like, they want to push us into this pre-depressive state because they know that people vote with their pocketbook, right? And so, yeah, it's just this thing of their influence is ceasing to have an effect. And that's the thing that they're really trying to sort of push, right? But yeah, no, I definitely think that there will. And Trump's going to win. Let's just say it that way. And things are going to shift, and it's going to improve. Let's ask if they're going to get us to a civil war state, especially in the States. Let's just see. I don't think so, especially judging by what we just read there. But let's see. We're kind of in it. I mean, the U.S. border thing, apparently Texas declared an invasion and sent down the army. There was pictures of the National Guard, or was it the Texas National Guard, cutting wire fences and letting people in, right? And it's just like, and then the train loads of people on top of trains coming, thousands. And just like the images of that little island in the Mediterranean, one of the first access points from Africa, and how the population of the island doubled, tripled. Can't support that. That's what they want. They want to overload us. They want to push it so that these illegals can become voting capable. But these people have to realize like what they're sort of getting themselves into. They're in for a trap, especially like they're building a controlled city. That's the smart city. That's the control grid. Unbelievable. I mean, in many ways, we already are in a civil war, okay? It's not just in the States, it's in every country, especially in the Western world. In fact, people in the Western countries need to, in a peaceful manner, stand up against these tyrants. Because, like, what if I told you, people in Canada, people in the UK, people in the United States, people in Australia, New Zealand, people in the Netherlands, people in Germany, people in the EU, and all in the English-speaking world and everywhere that's like part of this Western world. What if I told you we were on the bad side? And that it's time for you to fully accept this, right? I mean, it's for you to see. This is kind of what's been going on. But if we are taken over, especially like in Canada, okay, then yeah, we're already in this state. The coup has happened, and they've subverted the culture. They're upending the legal code, but yet the counter insurgency has been activated. Like the people that are there to counter it, right? So that division is already there, and that's what happens within a revolution. We recognize this by studying over centuries, different revolutions, how after a revolution proper, there is always a civil war period. There's always a time period where different sides will clash, okay? Are we not in that stage? Now, there's a lot of people that have woken up to it. They really are. But we have to continue to ask that question. We have to continue to kind of get people to sort of recognize it and not comply to it. Okay? 7 months wait and see, which makes a hell of a lot of sense, because holy cow, man. Yes, something could erupt. That's the probability. Will it? Chances are no. Chances are there's enough people, but those divisions, right? Like chances are there's enough people aware and awakened and spiritually activated towards the truth and the light that no, they're gonna fight to prevent war, which is kind of what's happening, right? And that's kind of the aim. We don't want any kind of war. We don't want that at all. But if everything gets so upended and putting us into further positions where we have no choice, right? That's what they want. That's part of that great reset. So that's the thing. We've got this time period to sort of really address this, but it's in the balance. Kind of like this thing of like, is there going to be a World War III? Well, if they create a World War III, we're going to know it's created. But no, there isn't, because we're on to them. There's enough people on the planet that are like clued in to their machinations. So in a lot of ways, what we're going to have to do is really sort of weed out the subverted and the ideological warfare that's taking place in our Western world, right? And that is there to create those divisions and to subvert us. And that's what's needed. And we need to stand up to it, and we need to speak out, and we need to speak, and we need to utilize what freedoms we still have, okay? Because that's what helps break it, okay? Because people are going to think and believe whatever they want. But the thing is when people enter into a state of segregation, division, and intolerance, that's what creates warfare. That's what creates the war conflict. Are we not already in this? I think we are, okay? It's just not an open conflict like what we're used to in studying like history and things like this, or even a world war. Some people believe we are in a world war, right? See, we are. In so many ways, we are. We don't need tanks rolling down the streets and us shooting each other. That's not the type of war that we're engaging. That's not necessarily what a fifth generational war is, okay? That's a big point. So what we got to recognize is like the war is against us, not against people, even though we don't see eye to eye, even though we might even perceive some of these people as like way off or even evil. It's not like that. If it's so socially engineered that a lot of these people that are adherents to, these deep state bad actors and pushing their agenda, they're not aware of how socially engineered they are. And if they are aware, then they're fully paid, they're full actors, they're full soldiers in this. And there are people like that out there. And there's quite a few, but there's more of us. And that's the thing we have to really get down with. Okay, so this is where like us on the spiritual side really come in. The intention and the visualization and the like just being in the being and emanating that love and the light that comes from that, and seeking, not this division, not this conflict, right? But then there's the other part of it of being prepared. But we have this 7-month window. That 7 of Pentacles definitely represents like the, wait and see, and I think what's going to kind of happen is the opportunity of building new systems, but also sort of sussing out the people and the infrastructure, like the establishment areas of the establishment, and these organizations, corporations, and governmental bodies that have betrayed us. That's like a big thing, right? And entering into sort of a reconciliation, a forgiveness, that kind of angle. And so like even entering into it beforehand, that's why it's coming up now for some of us, right? Because we can engage that energy before, right? That's what's going to help get us to the election. I know it's hard. Like, man, this has been so difficult. This time period has been so difficult. But we knew that this was going to happen. Yeah. All right, one more. Then we're finished. So yeah, we're going to see all sorts of stuff. I mean, I think some of the stuff in the States is going to erupt. They're going to trigger some kind of riot situation or something like similar, like what they want to see is like a BLM scenario again, right? That could happen. We could see like these PSYOP shooter situations, creating like civil unrest. And then not only that, these rallies, right? And so like a big division is going to be the identitarian thing. That's actually kind of a distraction now for the US invasion, okay? Because what they're actually doing, like in Europe and in the United States, like if you pay attention, these are young men a lot of the time, they're military age. That's the replacement. A lot of these guys are going to be the replacement for these identitarians, okay? So even though it's like crucial and it's important, it's more on your doorstep now. And some of these places it's become so imperative, like we have to stop it. It's that simple, right? So we have to recognize like what's actually going on, like where we're being hit. So we're going to see a lot of that stuff. We're going to see a lot of, like these protests and these divisions that the protests kind of create. Okay. That's kind of a thing, right? And I'm not saying like sometimes these protests are really good. You have to kind of do it. You've got to have the people out there. And sometimes it is just to create division. I don't know, right? I think where people, like especially on the grassroots level, are getting together and having that social discourse and are able to communicate and like connect and affirm for each other, like freedom, truth, well-being, that kind of thing. What they are essentially attempting to do is to take away all inalienable rights that come from the legal coding of the last couple hundred years, especially I guess since the Renaissance, or even since like the 1880s kind of thing. But this idea of where all of our, like the Declaration of Independence and like the universal rights that were declared after the French Revolution, the Magna Carta, all of it are created under the auspices of inalienable rights, from God kind of idea that are given to us, that are our birthright, right? Whereas they want to shift it to man-made laws and shifting it completely away from that. And that's the whole aim, It's not really a religious and a spiritual thing per se. And that's part of the beguilement of the devil card. The devil card is like the ruse. Devil teaches us, though, like esoterically and psychologically, I guess, is that freeing ourselves from self-imposed imprisonment or anything that's been shackling us, right, is like to really get us. Rewriting the past and sort of, and trying to throw off the good-natured, peace-loving, open and connected people from being sort of active in the everyday world. That's what they want to do. They want to throw us off, and so we can't do that. We got to stay on point, no matter how difficult it might be. We have to engage our world. We have to be out there. We have to kind of, I mean, I've been saying this the whole time. I've been doing readings since I started this channel, right? But it's important, right? This is what their op is. They want to throw it off. That's what will create that division, okay? And yeah, we just have to realize it's time. It is time. There's no more practice. There's no more, this is it. We're in it. So, and we can do this. This is what we've all been sort of, this is why we came here. Everything happens for that reason, right? And we're prepared for it. I mean, especially the people that are here watching me and listening to this, you're prepared. You know, whatever the universe is going to throw at you, you're ready. And so take it, right? So there's so many positive things that can come about for people, especially when you recognize where your calling sits. There are people there that are here to fight the good fight for you. So a part of this you don't need to be obsessed about. Even though what I'm saying is like how we're all interwoven and everything's so connected, and it does rely on the people. It's just we all have a part to play, and just kind of recognizing and not getting overwhelmed, right? It's like not allowing all this energy to overwhelm us, and to keep it into stride. We've got to kind of play a little bit of a longer game here. Cannot get frantic or lose composure. Like, it's super important. They're waiting for us to flip the switch, right? And that's not what it is. We're flipping our own switch and we're getting them to react to us. I hope that was clear. I hope there was some guidance and a little inspiration. I hope we got a little bit of direction. So make sure you subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful evening, wonderful day wherever you are. Take care. Bye-bye.